Nigeria apex lawmaking body, the Senate under the leadership of Godswill Akpabio has approved the sum of $2.2 billion fresh loan application by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, few days after the president said the former Nigeria president from 1999 to 2007, Olusegun Obasanjo, was not wise to have paid off Nigeria $15 billion debts he inherited. A statement the president made in reaction to Obasanjo's speech at the Leadership Forum held in honor and memory of one of the country's great literary icons, late Chinua Achebe at Yale University, United States of America, USA, and the new loan, if accessed, has made Nigeria debt profile to rise above 136 trillion naira, just as the country is currently and apparently borrowing money to finance recurrent expenditures, especially borrowing funds to pay back previous loans. Sahara Reporters News Network, in a report few hours ago, stated that the Nigerian Senate has finally approved a fresh $2.2 billion, about 1.77 trillion naira, request made by President Bola Tinubu. The legislative approval was given by the Senate after the submission of a report by Aliyu Wamako, chairman of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debt. The sum, equivalent to 1.7 trillion naira using the exchange rate of 800 naira to a dollar, will be used to finance the 9.1 trillion naira deficit in the 2024 budget. Earlier, Nigerian media space was awash with criticisms from former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, who strongly criticized President Bola Tinubu's leadership, stating that Nigeria is becoming a failing state due to widespread corruption, poor leadership, and immorality. Obasanjo made the remarks during his keynote address at the Chinua Achebe Leadership Forum held at Yale University. Obasanjo emphasized that the country's situation is dire, with corruption, insecurity, conflict, and disunity on the rise. He attributed Nigeria's problems to the reign of Baba Go Slow, President Muhammadu Buhari, and Emilokon, President Bola Tinubu, citing the consequences of pervasive corruption, mediocrity, immorality, misconduct, mismanagement, and injustice. The former president urged the leadership to prioritize the betterment of the people, rather than succumbing to foreign influences. He warned against state capture by vested interests, which he described as one of the most pervasive forms of corruption. Obasanjo noted that public institutions are being manipulated for personal gains, undermining the country's progress. Obasanjo expressed concern about rising insecurity and food scarcity, emphasizing that addressing these issues is crucial to preventing instability. He accused politicians of exploiting vulnerable citizens instead of providing concrete solutions to their problems. In response to Obasanjo's criticism, the presidency countered with allegations of hypocrisy, citing Obasanjo's own leadership shortcomings during his tenure. Tinubu, speaking through the office of the Special Advisor to the President, Bayo Onanuga, stated that Obasanjo's administration was marred by corruption, including the Halliburton bribe scandal and the failed $16 billion power project. Olusegun Obasanjo also called for the dismissal of the chairman of INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, and officials of the commission at all levels as part of a reform of the electoral process in Nigeria. He delivered the address, titled Leadership Failure and State Capture in Nigeria, in a pre-recorded speech played at the event. Obasanjo described the 2023 general election as a travesty, adding that the reform of the electoral system is a key agenda for the country. The former president also called for shorter tenures for INEC officials and a more rigorous vetting process to prevent the appointment of partisan individuals. As a matter of urgency, we must ensure the INEC chairperson and their staff are thoroughly vetted. The vetting exercise should produce dispassionate, non-partisan actors with impeccable reputations. Nigeria must ensure the appointment of new credible INEC leadership at the federal, state, local government, and municipal, city, town, and village levels, with short tenures to prevent undesirable political influence and corruption, and to re-establish trust in the electoral system by its citizens, he said. He argued that the INEC chairperson must not only be absolutely above board but must also be transparently independent and incorruptible. Obasanjo said the commission willfully failed to utilize two main technological tools at its disposal: the bimodal voter accreditation system (BVAS) and the INEC election result viewing portal (IREV) during the 2023 presidential election, despite the promises made by Yakubu. The BVAS and IREV are two technological innovations that, prior to 2023, were celebrated for their potential to enhance the accuracy and transparency of our election results, eliminate the threat of election rigging, and boost public trust in electoral outcomes. These technologies were touted by the INEC chairman himself. In the end, these technologies did not fail. INEC willfully failed to use or implement them, which resulted in widespread voting irregularities. It was a case of inviting the fox into the henhouse, he said. Details of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's response to Obasanjo criticism titled, "Former President Obasanjo was not an ideal leader to emulate," reads verbatim below. In a recent display of his characteristic self-importance, former President Olusegun Obasanjo once again took to the public stage to bestow his unsolicited wisdom on leaders and governance in Nigeria. From his lofty perch, he blamed those who served after his tenure for the nation's myriad challenges. Unfortunately, the former leader's habit of casting aspersions on every subsequent administration has devolved into a recurring pastime, overshadowing the expectation of an elder statesman to join a constructive dialogue on attaining national progress. In his latest critique of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, whom he pejoratively called Baba Go Slow, and President Bola Tinubu, who he tagged Emilokon, Chief Obasanjo used the platform provided by Chinua Achebe Leadership Forum at Yale University to unfold his latest treatise on leadership and public morality. He also used the forum to write of Nigeria as a failing country. The irony of Chief Obasanjo using the platform that celebrates Achebe to sermonize on the ideals of good governance, statecraft, economic management, and corruption should be apparent to discerning minds. When he was alive, Chinua Achebe was a universally acclaimed moral, cultural and literary icon with scant regard for Obasanjo. It is on record that Professor Achebe rejected the third highest national honor bestowed on him by the Obasanjo-led administration in 2004 on the grounds of the prevalence of abuse of power, corruption, poor leadership, and, in particular, state-sponsored brigandage endorsed by Chief Obasanjo in Achebe's home state of Anambra. In Anambra, the former president actively supported the abduction of a sitting governor, Dr. Chris Ngige, by non-state actors led by Chris Uba, a younger brother of Obasanjo's senior aide. In rejecting the 2004 national honor by the Obasanjo administration, Achebe declared, "Nigeria's condition today under your watch is too dangerous for silence. I must register my disappointment and protest by declining to accept the high honor awarded me in the 2004 honors list." Brazen illegality and assault on the Constitution of Nigeria reached a disturbing height under the leadership of Chief Obasanjo. During Obasanjo's era, the unconstitutional impeachment of 4 governors who belonged to his party occurred. The governors impeached by minority members of the Houses of Assembly were Joshua Dariye of Plateau, Rashidi Ladoja of Oyo, Ayodele Fayose of Ekiti and Depriye Alamesia of Bayelsa. A man under whose watch all of these egregious infractions occurred should certainly not be the one to give any lecture on leadership and corruption. He should not be taken seriously as he reeks of profound hypocrisy of the worst form. Former President Obasanjo has continuously pumped himself up as the economic wizard of Nigeria. But a reality check showed he was nothing of such. He left unresolved many, if not all, of the problems of Nigeria, which he itemized in his lecture. He even recently admitted that his government made a mistake by not focusing on gas development, as the Tinubu administration does today. All oil and gas players know that Nigeria has more gas than oil. The only positive of the Obasanjo era was fiscal and monetary policy management buoyed by a consistent rise in crude oil prices throughout his 8-year tenure. This rise in crude oil prices started in 2000 and peaked in 2013 when it reached over $100 per barrel before a decline in 2014, which set the oil-dependent economy downward. The current economic crisis the All Progressives Congress administrations have been battling since 2015 is the product of the poor choices in economic management made by Obasanjo and the two successors from his party. Obasanjo prides his government on paying the $15 billion debt owed to the Paris Club. Still, it was not a wise decision as it was done when the country's critical economic infrastructure across sectors was in shambles. While oil receipts brought money into the country, Obasanjo failed to fix the deplorable federal roads or expand the national road network. He did not repair the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the Lagos-Abeokuta road leading to his hometown in Abeokuta, the Ota-Idiroko road, and many others. His administration also should have paid more serious attention to universities and polytechnics. In a joint vote of no confidence in our tertiary institutions, Obasanjo and his deputy, Atiku Abubakar, sought to profit from their weaknesses by establishing their private universities. As a sitting president, Chief Obasanjo abused his office to advance personal interest against the spirit and letters of our constitution when he corralled leading businessmen, women and government contractors to donate billions of naira for his Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library and Resorts in Abeokuta and his Yale University in Ota. After wasting billions of naira on a failed third-term project in 2007, Chief Obasanjo hurriedly organized a sham electoral process that would go down in history as the most fraudulent election held in Nigeria since 1960. The beneficiary of the sham election, Umaru Yar'Adua, admitted that the election was seriously flawed and, as Justice Mohammed Oweisi's panel recommended, worked towards electoral reforms. It is hypocrisy writ large when a man who presided over the worst election in Nigeria demands the sack of the leadership of the Independent National Electoral Commission. For 8 years, the Obasanjo administration made no significant investment in security by modernizing the armed forces. He did not redesign the national security architecture or change the military doctrine. The most critical investment in our armed forces, especially the military, since the administration of President Shehu Shagari in 1980 was made by the APC-led administration of President Buhari from 2015-2023. When President Buhari assumed office in 2015, the Air Force had fewer than 3 serviceable fighter jets, and the Navy barely had 1 serviceable vessel. Within 8 years, President Buhari acquired over 40 new fighter jets of different capabilities, including 12 Tucano jets. He also acquired naval ships to strengthen the Navy. The APC administration of Buhari developed the air wings of the Army and Navy and changed the entire armed forces into one of the most potent fighting forces in the world. President Tinubu has continued to sustain the same support and funding to the military and other security agencies. It is the reason the country is winning in the multi-pronged fight against Boko Haram terrorists, bandits, kidnappers, and other perpetrators of violent crimes. In the last year, over 400 terror and bandit kingpins have been eliminated, and thousands of Nigerians have been freed from their abductors. The insecurity that engulfed Nigeria started under the Obasanjo administration with militancy and kidnapping of expatriate oil workers in the Niger Delta, which later became a festering wound from which the nation has not recovered. Boko Haram, which became a violent movement in 2009, began its build-up under Obasanjo's regime. On matters of integrity, honesty, and morality in public leadership, Chief Obasanjo is certainly not a paragon of virtue for anyone to model after. Nigerians can still remember the messy public spark between Chief Obasanjo and his then Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, over PTDF money that led to a Senate public hearing in 2004. The solid details of the public hearing included unsettling evidence of how Obasanjo instructed his vice president to buy sport utility vehicles for his mistresses with PTDF funds. There was also the Halliburton bribe scandal, which the U.S. Congress probe revealed. Bribe payments were made to the highest political authorities at the villa while Obasanjo was in charge. Nigerians will also remember how the Obasanjo administration invested $16 billion on electricity, which left the country in utter darkness. The colossal amount spent on power was so embarrassing that President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, Obasanjo's successor, ordered a probe. Similarly, Obasanjo's privatization program was scandalous. It did not deliver real value for the country. His administration cheaply sold national assets to cronies who stripped the assets of the state-owned enterprises. A case in point was the aluminium smelter company Alscon in Ikot Abasi, Akwa Ibom State, built by the military government at the princely sum of $3.2 billion. It was sold for $130 million. Obasanjo also sank money into turnaround maintenance of our refineries, which never worked, leading to the massive importation of refined petroleum products. Such was the miasma of corruption under Obasanjo that the former governor of Abia, Orji Uzo Kalu, his party member, petitioned the EFCC, accusing Obasanjo of gross abuse of office. If Chief Obasanjo had addressed the many problems he critiqued in his poorly written Yale lecture when he ruled Nigeria for 8 years, President Buhari and President Tinubu would have had a much lighter burden of fixing the country. While the Tinubu administration diligently works to overcome the country's economic challenges, it would be better and more advisable for former President Obasanjo to temper his self-righteousness in his public discussions regarding our nation's temporary difficulties. Instead, his remaining years would be better spent reflecting on the missed opportunities during his own time in leadership, both as military head of state and civilian president. Bayo Onanuga, special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, stated in a rebuttal issued on behalf of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on November 18, 2024.
Olusegun Akpabio, bringing you the news in a more digital way.